Chris, thanks for doing this. Can't hear you.
My bad. New setup here over here with football. So we good now?
Yeah, thank you. So as you're getting closer to the start of the season, can you give us kind of just an update in general on health of the team and status of the schedule?
Yeah, everybody's relatively healthy, or at least compared to where they were, have taken steps forward. Musa and Seth are the two guys right now that are out of live action right now, and they're able to do some limited contact drill work, but neither guy is able to do live action work. Everybody else is healthy and in a good place physically. We had our first scrimmage yesterday, and with officials. So the first time seeing officials here in basically since March, and it was good. It was good to get back out there. On Saturday, we're going to simulate an actual game day experience, pregame meal, walkthrough, scat and report. We'll bring officials back in on Saturday. But overall, our health remains relatively the same place it was. I don't have a specific timeline on Seth and Musa. At this point, I could speculate that Musa will be closer to returning than Seth. I think the timeline on Seth is still very much I would say he's at least a month away from getting into live action in terms of practice stuff.
All righty, we'll go next to Steve Hillwagon. Steve?
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Coach. I guess one of the purposes we were hoping to get was comments about the guys you're signing, but with Michi enrolling early, and I presume Keelan Etzler is signed, but I just saw on Twitter that Malachi Branham is not signing today. I don't suppose you can comment about that, but I don't know. I guess the two guys that you are getting, that as far as I know you're getting, just your thoughts about what's going on there.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, so I appreciate you asking that. So I'll just be really general right now. We have a release that we'll be putting out, and I'll be general in my comments overall about our class. We'll have all the signatures from all three guys by Friday afternoon. I think you know how this is. Guys want to do things at their high school, so we'll have those signatures of our entire class done on Friday afternoon, and we'll put a release out shortly thereafter. Suffice it to say, I'm really excited about this class. I think we've got some guys that I really feel confident are going to be able to step in and help us. Obviously, we have some perimeter needs that we needed to address with graduation of CJ and our couple perimeter players getting older. So we're really excited about it, and Friday, I think we'll have all those in and be able to put a release out.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk maybe that there's still room possibly in the spring to add another guy, and the potential might be there for a big man possibly maybe once you know your scholarship situation. Just how do you go about that? And obviously recruiting since March has changed with no in-person contact. I don't know, maybe those two ideas that you're still looking at seniors and the inability, at least for the time being, to talk to them in person.
Yeah, the recruiting has stayed the same. A lot of FaceTime conversations, a lot of Zoom conversations, and I think as much as possible, that's been the personal face-to-face contact that has been most helpful for us as a staff. And it really has allowed us at times to do it in a different way, maybe just a different way of recruiting and touching recruits. So, I feel really good about where we're at. You mentioned some of our what we're still looking for, and we have, as you know, we've been recruiting big guys for some of them for a couple years now, over 2 years, and I'm excited about where we're at. I think the pandemic has changed the timeline for some guys. In some cases, it's sped it up. In some cases, it's slowed it down. So we're going to run the race with guys that we feel great about, have a great relationship with. Obviously, you also have the spring period in which we'll also certainly take a look at available transfer big men as well. They'll be a part of that kind of pool of recruits that we'll look at.
Thanks.
All righty, we'll go next to Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Chris, a few times last year we would see EJ where he would just kind of take over a game. You guys would run the offense through him. I'm wondering how close is that to being not necessarily a nightly occurrence, but could occur nightly this season?
Well, I think there's no question, Tony, he's got to take a really important step for us. Did you say EJ or CJ?
EJ.
EJ, yeah. Sometimes I get confused on that or don't hear. But EJ for sure has to take a major step for us. I think to expect a sophomore to be someone you're going to run 100% of the offense through is in the best league in the country is probably too much to put on him right now. I think he's going to have some guys in Justice and Dwayne and CJ that can do some of those things in terms of playmaking and creating offense. And then Kyle can also play off those guys a little bit. But really Justice, Dwayne, CJ, and EJ will be guys along with Kyle. But those will be guys that will all play through various times. Justice gives us a guy in that he's, when you see him yesterday in a scrimmage, the way he moves, his athleticism, he gives us just a little bit of a different element than we've had at the wing. Jay Sean, we kind of slid him to the perimeter our 1 year together. And I think with a guy like Justice, while they're different players, he and Jay Sean are different players. I think the versatility in which we utilize them could be similar.
Is Justice maybe a combination of Jay Sean and Kada in some ways, or?
Well, sign me up for that today. Every day of the week, twice on Sundays. I will take that. I think it's interesting though, personality-wise, he's probably closer to Kada. He's got kind of a West Coast laid-back personality, but when you see him move, he's tested out as our best athlete. When you see him move, for a guy that's a good 6'7", he's got good ball skills. His shooting has continued to improve. I think we got to tighten up some areas defensively with him. He really rebounds the ball well. But his ball skills and his perimeter skills really allow us to move him around.
Thank you.
All righty, we'll go next to Stephen Means from Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Chris, I know you're going to talk in general right now until everybody is signed, but when Abel went down and his career pretty much ended, how quickly did you guys kind of, as a coaching staff, discuss the idea of bringing a guy in early, and then how much of the NCAA's decision to allow this year to not really count maybe impact you guys wanting to do that?
Yeah, Stephen, so it's a good question, and one that I can talk in a general way. So when Abel had an incident at at conditioning, it was a few weeks ago now. I think maybe over a month and a half ago right now. And at that point, we had committed, as you guys know, to really have a backcourt that, while it might be a little lacking in depth, we felt really good about the experience that CJ Dwayne was going to return. And if we could add an older guy like Abel, we felt good about going into the season. And knowing we could also move some of our wings around as well. So When he went down, it was obviously a cause of serious concern for his health to begin with. The real blessing in this is that in some ways you can look at this and say what happened to him here potentially saved his life. So once we were able to step aside from that and figure out what we were going to do in terms of the basketball side of things, we did look at a couple of different options. One of those was bringing in someone from the outside. And this has not been done much, and we were kind of questioning if it could work, but we spent about 3 or 4 days really diving in with our compliance about what direction we could go with. Could we look at a graduate transfer? Could we look at a high school a senior? And it was a lot of kind of research and digging, and then figuring out, obviously not every high school kid or graduate transfer could graduate and do it, but if there was the right opportunity, we wanted to make it happen. And then obviously the Jimmy's appeal coming through was a real boom for us as well, because of the depth that it'll provide.
All right, we'll go next to Tim Hall from 97.1. Tim.
Sorry, Coach. I was wondering if you could just speak a little bit more about the type of person and the type of guy Jimmy Sotos is, and how big of a deal that was. How excited was he to learn that this mess got cleared up and he's eligible?
Yeah, so it was, I think as soon as we started to catch wind that this year was in essence going to be a free year for athletes, if they choose it, right? That it wasn't going to affect their eligibility. We had talked about doing a waiver for Jimmy well before that, but I think that in our minds confirmed that let's go ahead and go through with it. Because initially Jimmy wanted a year to develop. He's coming up a significant level. Bucknell was obviously a really good program, but coming up a significant level. So I think he wanted a year to develop. But we did feel comfortable putting a waiver in, and then we actually the second waiver was actually there was some new information provided, which we felt like helped his cause. But what he is right now is, I think the thing he provides most significantly, Gene, is shooting, ball handling, and passing right now. I think he's graded out as one of our best shooters. And he'll have an adjustment to the athleticism, the length, the speed that's at this level for sure. But we see him as being a guy that will, play both off the ball and then with the ball in his hands.
Just a quick follow-up. I mean, anytime you think you're going to have a good shooting team, that's going to be awesome. But your programs had a focal point with Caleb Wesson and even the Wesson brothers for the last several years. I'm just wondering from you, what type of, stylistically team do you think you're going to have? Does it excite you as a coach that you might find a new way to play the game? What's it going to be like on that front?
I think, there's anticipation and excitement, and you spend kind of the off season looking at things. I will say I'd be really excited to have Caleb and Andre back as well. But guys leaving and graduate and obviously move on to the NBA. I think what it's done is made us look at different ways in which we'll try to attack defenses. We had a really efficient, good offense last year. Our numbers were really exceptional for most of the year. And in particular in league play, they were really good. We were an efficient group. So I think it'll be much different. We'll still play through the post at times, Tim, for sure, because we have guys that I think you can do that with in EJ and Justice, and Zed's shown the ability to score in the post. But I don't know that we'll be near as post-centric as maybe we were certainly in year 2 here, when that was really the majority of our offense.
Thanks, man.
All righty, we'll go next to Patrick Murphy, 247 Sports. Patrick.
Hey, Chris. Speaking of the post, Kyle Young, obviously one of your veterans, your leaders. If he is able to stay healthy for the entire year, what does he give you, and what can he bring to this team, maybe even more than we've seen in the past?
You know what, Patrick, he's really shot it well for us, and I think being able to play him, he's moving really well. He's obviously had plenty of time here to heal from some of the things he was banged up with, primarily his ankle last year. But he's really been able to catch and shoot for us in space. He doesn't have quite the touch that Caleb does. I'm not saying that, but I do anticipate that he's going to shoot more threes than what he has ever done, probably by a significant margin. And he's proven time and again that he's capable of doing that. And I think also being able to move him around with his mobility and attack. He's got to take a jump for us offensively. I'm not saying he's got to double his output, but it's got to be, a significant number increase for us to be good. And then he's also got to provide some of his defensive physicality, albeit he's undersized, but he's definitely going to have to provide that for his group. Because, right, probably the defensive side right now is my biggest, overall concern with our group. We have to continue to get better in that area.
All right, we'll go next to Colin Hass-Hill from 11 Warriors. Colin.
Chris, I feel like over the past 7 or 8 months, there's been 3 or 4 times where I felt like the roster's settled, and then something else happens and someone moves on, you get someone else, and finally 2 weeks away, it feels like you have your group, and you've been through some practices now. What are just sort of your general thoughts, general vibe on what the team you have now, given the fact this is the group that you're going to lead this year, and there aren't going to be presumably any more changes?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And I think that, that is, I think rosters are always somewhat in transition, whether it's through an injury like we had with Abel or other situations. I think that's the norm in college basketball. I'm excited. We've had a pretty good feel, Colin, for what the bulk of our team was going to look like now, really since the spring. So we've been able to take a look at and figure some things out. I think what we don't know is we just don't know until we start playing games against other guys, kind of how much of a step forward have some of our guys taken that we need them to take. And, we're not at the same place right now, I would say, just physically, maybe that we were this time last year. And I think there's a number of reasons to explain that. But I do think that this group has a real chance to continue to grow. I think there'll be some roles that will evolve a little bit as the year goes on. And I think I'm excited about that. We've had a pretty good kind of feel for what our group's going to look like, but still, yesterday being the first scrimmage, I think we've learned even more about some of our guys.
How do you feel about this team's backcourt depth? And obviously that's been probably the one area that's changed, at least in the past couple months most. And I know you feel strongly about CJ and Dwayne, but like you said, Jimmy was planning to sit out this year, and then getting a guy who hasn't played since played in a high school game since his sophomore year. I don't know how much you really would expect from him, at least in year one. What are your general thoughts on this backcourt depth?
I feel good about it now. Yeah, I feel really good about it now. And I think that I would have had some concerns, obviously, with Abel going out had we not been able to find another primary ball handler in depth there. I would have felt really concerned, but I feel good about it now. Obviously, the pandemic makes depth even more important than it's ever been. But I think every program right now is going to have to be really flexible and adjust, and guys are going to have to play that maybe play more minutes than maybe you anticipated, just because of normal interruptions that could happen throughout the season. But I feel good about it. I really do.
Then just one quick last question. Who's you in scoring? Do you feel like you have any good vibes? I feel like the last 2 years we've pretty much known who was going to. Do you have a good vibe on that when you go into it this year?
I think Dwayne will be up there. You asked me who was going to lead us in scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be, Dwayne will be up there for sure. He was second on our team last year, so you got to anticipate that he will. And he's playing with great confidence and aggressiveness. He's got to continue to make the right reads and the right plays and understand how teams are going to play him a little bit more. And he's no longer kind of on the back end of the scouting report. I think Justice and EJ will have a chance to be, as well as CJ will have a chance to all kind of be up there. Really, I think in this group right now, you could look at any number of those 5 guys, including Kyle, and say that a different guy could lead us in scoring. But I think consistently, you got to look at probably Dwayne's going to be up there.
Thanks.
All right, got time for a couple more. We'll start with Jacob Benji from the Lantern. Jacob.
Hey, Chris. I'm curious about Zed Key in particular with how he's developed to the college game. Just being around guys like Kyle Young and EJ Liddell, who had that freshman acclimation period last season. How much have you seen Zed adjust to the college demands?
I think Zed and Gene have both they have both been really, really impressive in just their adjustment to the grind of what we're doing. They both have to get in better shape and continue to have to get in better shape. And I think collectively as a team, that's important for us. But both guys have a real maturity. Both guys are going to play for us. I feel confident in saying that both Zed and Gene are going to play. They're going to be in our rotation to some degree. And obviously Zed, there's a little more need for him because of interior depth. But both guys, Gene's shown the ability to really defend, played well in yesterday's scrimmage. I think both guys, fitness is the biggest thing for Zed right now. I texted with his dad back and forth this morning and had a great conversation. That's the biggest thing for him. That and just kind of understanding the demands of a guy at this level playing kind of an interior position. But I feel really good about both those guys and their careers here.
Thank you.
I've got time for 2 more. And the last 2 will go to Adam Jardy and Bruce Hooley. We'll start with Bruce Hooley. Bruce.
Do I hear you, Bruce, or no? I don't see you.
All right, we'll go to Adam Jardy. Adam.
Chris, obviously having to withdraw from the South Dakota tournament, and the season is technically supposed to start in 2 weeks. Can you describe what it's like trying to find games at this juncture and just how much of a challenge that has been?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, guys. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you and say it hasn't been a challenge. It has. I think we made the right decision. Dr. Jim Borchers had a real conversation with me last week about the positivity rate in South Dakota, and I appreciated him. We had been tracking that pretty closely. It was a tournament we really wanted to play in. That's kind of why we stayed in it as long as we did. So it has been a challenge. I would say it's probably been right now about 70% of my work days and nights have been scheduling, because I think at this point it kind of has to be head coach to head coach when you're talking about scheduling games to expedite the process. I'm hoping that we'll have some clarity to it. The toughest thing about scheduling is both teams have to agree to it and be engaged and have a date at this point and want to play the game. And I think we've had some great ideas about some potential matchups, but we just haven't been able to have, I think, a unified agreement on the game yet. So, we'll see. We obviously have some exciting non-conference games, and the biggest thing for us is we've got to get some games scheduled. We're close to that. We'll see if what the rest of our non-conference is going to look like. The one thing about our league, as you look at the schedule in its entirety, is it'll again be the best and deepest basketball league in the country. So the number of games that you're going to play in a quad 1 or quad 2 type opportunities are off the chart in a league that last year had 12 or 14 teams in the top 50 of the net. So I think the opportunities for teams in our league is a little bit different because they are so frequent. But I also would like to play, as many non-conference challenging games as possible to prepare us for that. So long answer. We're hoping to put the finishing touches on that. I'm hoping in the next, I know my wife would like that as well, in the next week or two, hopefully. I can take a couple more if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. We'll go to Bruce Hooley.
Yeah, Coach. Wonder if you could talk about the complications or the likelihood, I guess a better word, of Michi playing even as early as the North Carolina game a week after he enrolls. It makes sense for him to come because I get it, he's a free year, but he was going to play high school basketball, and even as good as he is, this is a whole different level. Can you just talk about what kind of likelihood is it for him to be a contributing player this year?
Yeah, so we were looking at that, and I'll just kind of speak in a little bit of a general sense right now. We were, when we were looking at bringing in someone, we were looking at different dates, and somehow the date around mid-December was what we were looking at, both for a high school player or someone else. I think with the protocols in place with the pandemic now, with the daily testing required, and important, and specifically in his situation, he is physically really, really healthy right now, and in a really good place. But as it's been mentioned, he hasn't played competitive, organized games, with the exception of AAU for a while. So I think the biggest thing for us is we're going to keep in mind his health. Those decisions that were made kind of in a long-term, with long-term thinking in mind about what can prepare him for an increased role next year. Having said that, I feel like there's real opportunities to help this team. But we want to understand that his health, his overall health, will need to be fully evaluated, and it's in his best interest here.
I apologize. I got in a little late. Have you replaced the 3 games you were going to get in South Dakota yet?
Yeah, no. So we're in talks about. We will not at this point be playing in another exempt event like that at another location. Right now, we're hoping. I'm hoping that my phone will start buzzing, and we can finish up a few things here in the next, like I said, couple days. But we don't have anything yet finished. I do want to play 27 games as opposed to what some programs are doing in terms of playing 25. I do want to play 27. I think that's important for our group. So that will mean we'll have to do some type of exempt event, whether that's here or someplace else. We're close on a couple games, but we haven't had the finishing touch on the schedule yet.
Thank you.
All righty, and we'll wrap it up with Brendan Gulick from Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
Coach, thanks for being generous with your time and sticking around a little bit here. I'm not sure if you had heard during your conversation with us, the football game between Ohio State and Maryland's been canceled this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a breakout of cases, 8 cases reportedly with Maryland. And I realize that has nothing to do with your program, but it kind of begs a different question. I recognize that you guys have seasons that overlap a little bit, and I know you have a good relationship with Coach Day. How much do you guys discuss, or maybe do you pick his brain about hey, how comfortable are you with travel logistics, and how did you guys handle this situation, and what can we do to be prepared for this situation? Do you have any of that back and forth with him?
Well, first of all, I'm impressed that so many of you have stayed on the call here, given that news. Yeah, trust me, I appreciate that. If I'd have heard that, I might have left this call. I do, I obviously love Ryan and got great respect for he and his staff. So we have, we talked a little more, Brendan, in the summer about protocols and about what they were doing with their guys and what we would do with our guys and testing. And we talked about myocarditis. We've talked about a lot of things and how to best, keep our guys safe and healthy from our perspective. I've certainly picked his brain on that. Not as much since the season has gotten started, more so in the off season. I think we all understand that, listen, in a year like this, that your team, has got to expect interruptions, and you kind of have to normalize struggle a little bit. I talked about that Carol Dweck comment that she likes to say. There is going to be interruptions and struggle in a normal season. We expect that. I think we've had practices where we've only been able to practice with 6 or 7 guys, not because of necessarily positivity, but because of following all the necessary protocols of contact tracing. We've had very few interruptions within our program. Very few. It's been a real blessing that we've had very few interruptions with our practices. But we do expect that there will be some. Obviously, this is a significant one, this doesn't necessarily involve Ohio State, but it does involve us in the sense that it's somebody we were supposed to play. So we have had those conversations. He's been really helpful. His staff's been really helpful.
How about your team's makeup? I mean, I realize you guys were basically at the very front end of this pandemic.
Yeah.
And obviously, while that sucks, you at least have some experience with having dealt with this uncertainty and whatnot. So as you get ready to launch a new season, do you think maybe that, I don't want to say the maturity level, but does it help the mentality and the overall understanding from a team perspective of just taking care of today, appreciating today, and letting the rest go?
Yeah, that's it, really. That's it, Brendan. I think it's the idea that we get to do this. We don't have to do this. We get to come in and be an athlete and get better. And if it's only 6 of us, it's only 6 of us. We get to do this. Let's find a way to maximize the day in front of us. Outside of this, let's do all the protocols to mitigate any risk as much as we can. I do think we have a mature group. I've said that, and they've been really. I think we all have a tendency to relax, but I think they've been really on point with following the protocols. I've been really, really impressed, but it's not going to completely eliminate any risk. But yeah, it's really that you're trying to stay in the moment. And I'm putting a 27-game schedule together. I don't think we're going to play 27 games, but I'm putting one together.
Thank you.
All righty.
All right. Thanks, guys. Be well. Take care.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Coach.